So the way you stand is very important. We are taught this in society as a whole. How you stand and how you present yourself, is important. If standing up straight and head up, these are all important things that we learn even in high school. That we want to make eye contact with people, and in fighting, it's no different. The way we stand in a fight is extremely important. We call this the foundation or the base. And with the foundation of the base, you have to understand that with your base, that dictates how well you move and how well you don't get moved. All right, and what I mean by that is we want to have a certain amount of mobility so that we're not just stuck in one place and a stationary target that can get smacked around. But we also don't want to be that person who is so mobile that when they do catch up to us or do catch us off guard and reach us, that they don't get to knock us to the ground and keep us from being mobile, which was our whole goal in the first place. So in the words of the great Grandmaster Chuck Sullivan, what he said was, "A poor set of feet lets a body get beat." And that is such a true statement. So with that being said, we're going to get started and show you exactly some of the best ways to stand when you fight. All right, so for starters, if I have Eli here, what typically happens is there's usually some sort of pushing match, right? That usually is how it starts. A lot of fights have to do with more just pride and anger and what we would call social posturing. This is no different. What's going to happen is, if someone pushes, people back up and then they get mad and they push back, right? So if Eli pushes me, right, then I don't, for instance, I don't want to stand there so stupidly that when he pushes me, I get knocked down to the ground. I don't want that. So that's step one. Typically most people don't fall, but you'd be surprised. Now, what also is going to happen is one of the things that's going to help us get used to the idea of getting in a fighting stance is if someone were to push us, we have the idea of when the push happens, we step back, okay? We're not allowing ourselves to step multiple steps, all right? We're just simply, when the push happens, stepping back and planting. And notice there's also a little bit of a slide where we just step back and slide, all right? Now, one of the easy ways that we can do this, okay, and you guys can do this with Eli here. If Eli demonstrates, what's simply going to happen is he's going to take his foot and turn it directly to the side. Now when he turns his foot directly to the side, his left foot, it turns. Once that happens, he then is going to step back more than shoulder width apart. After that, he's adjusting his feet to where they're comfortable, and then he bends his knees and just brings it down so where he has a little bit of mobility, but a little bit of base as well. Now, the reason for this is, one, it's fairly natural to do, and two, it keeps us in a good position to where we're not completely lined up with the fight. We're not completely turned over and fighting straight on, but we're not also turned completely to the side to where when we're looking at our attacker dead on, even though we're offline a little bit, we don't have all our weapons. We want to have all the weapons, but we don't want to expose all our targets. We want somewhere in the middle. Now, with that being said, we're going to do it again. So he stands up, and he turns his foot to the left, and then he steps back, adjusts his feet as he sees comfortable, bends his knees, and that's it. Let's do it one more time. Turns his foot, step back, adjusts his feet, bends his knees. Now, if he stands up and turns to the left, he's going to do the exact same thing. He turns his foot, steps back, adjusts his feet, bends his knees. And all you're going to do is, in practice, you're just going to do this over and over again. And this is the most important thing. When we practice this, it's in order for us to get a strong base that we can utilize in a fight. Now, with that being said, what's going to happen is when we fight, the reason why we do this is, in boxing, for instance, you have guys that are up here really high. You have guys that are up really high. And that's great for mobility. You can move around and be quick about it. But at the same time, if Eli gets a hold on me, especially if he has some sort of wrestling background, that's going to be really bad. Okay, and I don't want to mess with that. And if I get taken down to the ground, that's going to be horrible. Also, I don't want to have such a low base that maybe he can't move me as easily, but at the same time, I can't move very well myself. Again, a poor set of feet lets the body get beat, so I want something in the middle, which is why you see Eli and myself bending our knees just enough and weights distributed about 50-50. That way, we have a good amount of mobility, but we also have a good amount of base. So take this drill, practice it over and over again. You can do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Just take your foot and turn it to the right, and you just practice this over and over again, and eventually, just simply step back, right? And the last thing is, we've focused on the legs. What your hands do is extremely important. So with your hands, what you have to understand is, how you hold your hands is what the witnesses see. How you position yourself in the fight, or just before the fight, or even after the fight, witnesses see. So if you're out on the street and someone's accosting you and he brings his hands up, and then I bring my hands up, maybe I'm defending myself, but when people see, they see both of us with our fists, versus what is going to be recommended, which is when he brings his hands up and I go into my stance, my hands are up as well, but they're in palms. Okay? Palms versus fists. Palms are virtually, I can do the exact same thing with a palm as I can with a fist. I can also, with my hands, turn it into a fist. All right? I can turn that into a fist, but what it shows the witnesses is that I am the one that's not being aggressive, and that's important. So with that being said, this also will help me to practice being relaxed. If my hands are relaxed, right, then typically the rest of your body is going to be a little more relaxed. If you're super tense because you're scared or the adrenaline's pumping through you, you restrict your movement. So with your hands open, it allows you to focus on forcing your body to be relaxed. So when Eli gets his hands up, hey, leave me alone, right? My hands are up. I'm still protecting myself, but at the same time, I am showing witnesses who the aggressor is, who the attacker is, and who the victim or the person that's defending themselves is. So in closing, again, recapping, you want to make sure that you have a good base that's in between mobility and having a solid foundation. You also want to make sure that it's somewhat comfortable, and using this drill, you want to make sure to practice this over and over again every single day. You know, a good punch is great, a good kick is great, a good headbutt is great, but if you don't have a good base, that stuff is not going to be even remotely as good as it could be if you didn't have that base to begin with. My name is Adam Jolly with Get Real Self-Defense, and we'll catch you next time.